Hey you guys, and welcome back to Mochi Design. Today I will go into setting up a character and background first in Adobe Illustrator, and then we will go into Adobe Animate to animate it. Since it was done in Adobe Illustrator, the character and background will mainly use vector graphics, which are based on math and allow for everything to be of the highest quality, even when scaling it to a larger size, which will come in handy later. We will design the character, and then the animation that I will do will be a funny walk cycle. And I will show two different ways to move a 2D animation. One way using the bone tool in outlines, and another way would be using a hierarchy system. The background will move as well. So let's get into it. So now we're starting with this blank canvas here, and I'm changing the colors of everything as well. Using the paintbrush tool and having everything selected, then you go into the colors to change everything. And so right now it's looking like the color of a sidewalk, and I'm making it a little bit smaller at the top so that it looks like it's going out into the distance. All the little things on the side are different trees. It's more of a cartoon type trees. It has these little circles as well, and they are all outlined. And we're making them bigger in different sizes since trees are supposed to be big. So we're going to drag it out by making it we're going to drag everything out by selecting it and dragging the button and then pulling one of the corners. You can also hit shift so that everything changes in a uniform way. And then you can also go to the outside. You'll see these arrows and you can flip the direction that it's going to be in as well. And so we are selecting it and then copying and then pasting them down as well so that we can make more of them in a quick way. And that's the great thing about Illustrator. You can quickly just double things and change the little things about each one. And so now I'm going to the bottom half as well, and I'm cutting that and then pasting and also pasting another one as well to fill up the screen a little bit. A copy paste is your friend. And then I'm going to the edge. If right now we're on the selection tool, so I'm going to the edge and just switching and making it more different size. And then for the actual street here or the sidewalk, we're going into the pen tool and changing what we already have to kind of change the shapes. I wanted it to look a little bit more realistic, a little bit less curvy. So we're changing that and changing the different dimensions of this particular street here. And changing the different sizes, just pulling the little points in. And so I love the little color mode. You can choose colors that kind of go together by pressing that button at the end, the color guide there. And then you kind of tells you what colors would look nice and then the different tints of that color, make it lighter or darker. So it really makes things a lot easier to make everything look nice together. I wanted the end to be a little bit darker at the end, kind of showing that it's in the distance a little bit more. I started off with this black, and I'm just using the paintbrush tool and painting, and then the stroke is a bit higher, so it comes on when you actually use the stroke. It comes on really thin, but when you let it go, it gets really big because the stroke is at a big size. So that's why it's looking like that. And then that, you see how that became huge, a little bit too huge. So we just undo that to get back to the original size there. And I'm making the pen or the paintbrush a lot smaller. But even when you see when I just did that, it comes off small. So that's something it's good to remember that if you're using it while you're using it, it's not going to show exactly the stroke size unless it's a smaller stroke size. And then I'm selecting everything and changing some colors of it and just And so we have a dark gray type color, and there's a lot of strokes. If you can see all the blue there, that's all the different strokes and lines that I used originally, but then it got even bigger. So I ended up changing to a lighter color with a huge stroke, so it's a lot more simple. I liked how that came out. And then here's the layers. So we have 3 layers right now. And so I really want to focus on the trees a bit, making them look a little bit better. And then here is the grass. So the easy way to make grass is make a green layer. And then you just pull the layer to the bottom so that you can show that it's underneath things, and you can show the rest of the background as well. And then I like to use these different color tools here because you can just kind of drag and get to the color that you want. If you want to add more green, add lessen the red, you can easily do that. So now I'm zooming in here. You can use, if you have a touch screen, you can use your hands to kind of drag it just like you would a tablet. Or you can also use at the bottom, there's a percentage. You can up the percentage that way as well. Now I'm making little shadows with my paintbrush and making it smaller based on the size of the actual tree. So if the tree's wider, then the shadow will go about the same length as the tree, or width as the tree, not really length. You could do length, but depending on where the sun hits, it could be different, it could be longer. So they have the circles, but they really need to be filled in, even though the actual trees right now aren't filled in. But so we kind of can select and use the paint bucket and put the colors in there. So that's what they're looking like right now, the little shadows. So I'm making this one tree a little bit different at the top left, making it a little bit wider, a different type of tree, and just filling in some of the points here so that the tree looks less like a circle, and trying that out. You can use the pen tool for this as well, or you can just draw it with the paintbrush tool, but then it wouldn't be a vector at that point. But you can use the pen tool or the curve tool, which is my favorite tool. So here I am drawing it out here, making 2 different layers coming out. So it's a darker at the very top, and then the middle is a lighter color. But here I am using a pen tool here, and it went kind of all over the place. That can happen sometimes. So if that happens, then you just edit, undo. And really, when you make the actual tree, it doesn't have to be right where it needs to be. You can move it there later as well. So there's an example of that right here. Even though I'm not close to the tree, I can make the general size of or shape of what I would like things to be. And then I can just make it smaller with the shift and using the corner, and then attach the little shape to it. So that's what I'm doing here. You can do the same things as the rest of the shapes by rotating everything as well if you would like. The curvature tool is the best. And so I also added, as you can see, made some of the trees bigger, filled them in with that paintbrush, a paint bucket tool, and then now I'm putting shadows in this little sea here, this little lake, and changing the different points of the paintbrush so that it can kind of go throughout the outlines. As you can see, the bottom half is also using a gradient, so it also has a gradient there. And so the left side is a bit lighter with the white than the right side, but the left side also has the shadow going as well. It's an interesting shape, but so we can go back to that pen tool and drag the different points here and make it everything fit. Or the curvature tool, they both can help you with that. And so we're selecting it and then dragging to the ends. Exactly where we want it to be, just to cause it to have some more dimension and shadows here. And now we're using these colors to make highlights. So you see there's a darker color, so you can pick the actual color if you would like the ones on the left bottom half, and then make it a little bit darker so that it kind of matches, or you can just use a light highlight type color like the pink. It is not the same color, but it still works. Then going with the darker color for the bottom half as well, by just picking the same color and then moving the little drag buttons for the color to the darker side so that it kind of fits, since it's on the same spectrum of the same colors, just maybe more of a different type of color, but it's the same color, if that makes sense. Um, so we're shading it, and that gives it a lot more dimension there. And I'm shading the bottom half of these as well. And those are the top, the little small trees, baby trees. I'm trying to put a little bit of the sky at the top. So I go to the rectangle tool and make a small rectangle, or a short rectangle, but it's kind of wide. And picking the colors here in the color chooser there, and choosing a good sky color. Okay, now we're going to make the character. Using the ellipse tool, we're going to make a simple circle for the head. And I turned off the other layers there, so they're still there. It's the same file, it's just a different layer. And right now we can only see the one layer. So now I'm using the pen tool, the curvature tool, which is my favorite. I like the curvature tool more than the pen tool. But yeah, so we make this little arm here and then close off. And then when we want it to be a straight line, we can double click. And then drag to select it. And we want another arm, so we're going to Alt and drag. And then we are going to switch the directions as well of the arm so that the arm doesn't look broken. So we can use the reflect tool. It's one way you can do that, and then just drag it around there like that. Then we can position everything and make sure that you click not the middle part, because it doesn't recognize that as anything, but the outline of everything. That's the part you can actually see that's not white. That's the part that you would use to move everything around or to resituate everything. So now we're going to start the other part of the body here. So this is a leg. This would be the our right leg, and probably their left leg because they're going to face us. And then so we're going to rotate the same way and rotate around. And situate everything. Then we can use our wonderful rotate tool that comes with everything. So when it comes to the ones with the arrow, just by going a little bit outside, it'll change what it looks like. And situating the abdomen and the two upper legs as well. Change it to the rectangle tool. And because we just need a straight up and down, this would be a simple character. So we just need a straight up and down leg for the bottom leg. It's a little thin, but I guess it works. Now here's the character all done, but it has a stroke on it. So here's the character all done, but it has a stroke on it. So we will select everything, go to the stroke and hit the little white with the red stripe down it, or red line, and that'll take away all the strokes for this one. Some people like to keep the strokes on, but I actually like it without the stroke. It makes it easier to animate in my opinion as well. Animate simple hands, just a circle using the ellipse tool. So we're going to select the head and move it to the symbols box. If you go to Windows Symbols, you'll have these different sections. So you just select the body part and move it over, name it, and make it a movie clip. And leave it at the dynamic symbol as well. And then you hit OK. And you can do that for all the different body parts. So we'll show you the neck as well. And so you just name it, hit OK. And then this is so that when we go into the Animate file, Adobe Animate, it'll already be separated into symbols. So you don't have to worry about making each body part into a symbol. It'll be done in the easiest way. And you just go throughout the whole body doing this. And for the legs, sometimes you can actually just use one symbol for both, if that's what you would like to do. No spaces for the name. You put spaces on the name, it won't really understand what you're doing once you put it into Animate. So no spaces for the name. Right leg as well. Lower leg. Or else that'll get confusing pretty quickly if they're the same. They look pretty much the same on both sides for the rest. So now we are in Adobe Animate. And so there's different little levels. This one shows everything. So it's not showing the different symbols or anything. Everything is already on there, and she's looking huge right now for the frame. And you can do similar with as the Illustrator when it comes to the free transform tool, so that you can make things wider or smaller or bigger. So I'm putting out the different body parts here. Left arm, the abdomen. But I wanted to make sure that everything is showing in the right order, or else, maybe the neck would be in front of the head. So the things that you want towards the back, you would put in first, and the things that you want towards the front, you would put that in last. And zooming in a bit, you can do Control Plus to zoom in as well. Now we're setting everything up because we're going to put everything together for the animation. And there is the torso area, the lower arm. And I just use the same because they're the same shape. There's nothing different about them when we made them, so using the same one there. And there's little transform points so that you can kind of know when you're switching things around or rotating things, which at what point it rotates. So is it going to rotate from the middle? Is it going to rotate around the top or around the bottom half? That's that little white dot there. So we are adding both legs, which they're the same, just like the lower arm. It's the same. This is not how it's going to end up looking. This is just to set up everything in the beginning. Here's my little circle hands. And just setting them up about in the same area as where they're going to need to be. So it's not completely random, but it's not completely to get together right now. So as you can see, there's some numbers on this side to tell you how often we've used those symbols. It says 111 all the way down. So it means we've used all of the symbols that we have at least once. And arrange, you can bring it to the front there so that everything can go in the right order. If you realize maybe you put something in the wrong order, you can bring to front or bring forward. Bring to front brings it all the way to the front. Bring forward brings it one level up. So now we're going to the bone tool and we're going to set up from the torso out and set up all the different spots here to connect to different body parts. That's why it's good that it's in similar spots, because that would be all over the place if you had everything all mixed up. So you just drag the little circle to the area that you need it to go. Kind of like the bones is the bone tool. So kind of like how the bones are. Everything's connected. And to the top, so the torso goes to the top of the leg, and then the top of the leg goes to the top of the bottom part of the leg. And you do that all the way throughout. If you make a mistake and click off, you can always click it back on as well. And then we're connecting the neck to the head. Right now there's no face. We'll put a face in later. Once we start animating, we'll animate the face. So now you see everything's apart, but if you go to the transform tool, you can easily move everything around so that it is in the correct area and shorten all the different limbs there so that everything isn't floating. And then there's the transformation point. You want that to kind of connect as well. So we're moving everything here. Arms and the legs. This is a basic one. So these are the different body parts that you would make sure that you have included when you create your character. So things like the head, the torso, the abdomen, the hands, the legs, the lower leg, because they may want to bend their legs. So you need a lower leg unless they're not bending their legs at all. And then you need the feet so that you can kind of move the feet and the arms, the hands, the head. See how that kind of moves? I like to use the shift tool to move things. So I would move every single body part with the shift tool. What the shift tool does is it'll just move one simple part. So just move just the hand or just the arm, whereas the hand and the arm will stay the same. Well, it'll move with it, but it's not going to um it's not going to bend. It still will move with it, but let's say you move the top part of the leg, then the bottom part will stay straight if you hit the shift. If you don't hit the shift, then maybe the bottom part may bend while you're moving it. So, but I like to do each part separately. That's my beginner way of doing things. And so that is how you use the bone tool. But I'm also going to show you how to do the hierarchy version. The bone tool is my favorite, but everybody's different. So we're going to put each part into a separate layer So abdomen under abdomen layer, and then we're going to put the neck under the neck layer. So each body part will have a different layer. The good part about the hierarchy way is that you can easily move things around. If you want the arm to go in front of the abdomen, as an example, or in the back of the abdomen, you can move the layers based on that behind or head of the body part that you want the body part to be behind or head up. So that's a good part about the hierarchy way of doing things. And so we're going to go through each one. And I also made the symbols, the layers based on the symbols. So if it's the left hand, I put left hand, right hand, put right hand as an example. You can also do it this way where instead of doing one by one, you can just go through the line of what it says on the symbol area in the library. You can go through each one and just make the layer first and then start adding all the different layers after, or you can do it at the same time where you can make the layer, add the body part, and then keep going that way. Or you can just do it, just adding the layers first and then adding the body parts at one time. I actually think it's easier to add all the different layers first. That way you're not forgetting, did I do this? Did I do that? Everything's there. And then you'll know if you've added that body part because there will be that little dot that'll show up under the seconds, under the frames. So once that dot shows up, you know that something's on that dot. Also, if you want to find out where the dot is or where that layer is, if you click on it, it'll highlight which parts of the body is on that layer. Let's say if you mixed it up, you put the foot where the arm is. If you click the arm and you see that the foot is highlighted, then you know that that's the part that you messed up at, so you can easily just remove it and add it to the correct layer after that. Once everything is on a layer, there is a button that you would press and you would connect each of the body parts based on what is ahead of it. The head is my favorite part, has the most detail to it. And so if you realize that you forgot a certain body part, you can easily just add a layer, name it, and then add that body part. So the legs, not the lower leg, but the upper leg is what was forgotten here. So we'll just add that layer, add the left and right leg, and then we can easily move everything over. And as you can see here, this is also in a general type of layer. So general spot. So the spots aren't exactly where they will end up being. Now we're going to outlines, and outlines helps you to connect things. So let's say even for the bone tool, if you need to connect things, you can go to the outline. That way, if let's say the arm is showing up behind the body, then you may not be able to see if you're connecting them together because you can't see that part of the arm. So sometimes it's hard to imagine where it's going to end up being. So with that, you can go to the outlines and that way you can see where everything is. But the key to the outlines is you can't move the outlines based on the middle part, and you have to go to the actual outline part. So even though it exists, and if it wasn't outlines, you would be able to just click in the middle of an object. Because it is outlines, you would need to just click on the outside area. And it makes sense because let's say you're clicking something and it's overlapping, if you're using outlines, it's going to be kind of confusing which one you're selecting because it's outlines. Whereas if you're hitting the corners of it, then you know what you're selecting, or the computer knows what you're selecting. Sometimes it's hard to click the outline. You can zoom in at that point like this. And now you can clearly see where the outline is, because sometimes the bounding box is about the same spots, or the box around it that controls the movement is about the same, so it's hard to kind of select it if you're far away. So you just zoom in. Zooming in helps with a lot of things, including drawing. Let's grab it, move it, and then move that little circle so that it can rotate in a good area. And we are doing this circle, and here I am zooming in once again, and that way I can select it easier. And then making sure the bounding box is good. It's looking good already for that one. And here's the bottom leg, or the top leg. And we're gonna just move all of the little points here so that it's connected to the body, to another body part. I like all the different colors that are showing up. So then that helps you to differentiate the different parts of the actual outline. And so this is what it ended up looking like after we moved the body parts. So the first one, this little like jump there, where she's like quickly moving her legs, that part was with the hierarchy way of moving things. And then as you can see afterwards, it's much smoother, and actually it's slower, but it's constantly moving. It's not jumping around, but she's bending her legs a different direction. Thank you guys so much for watching, and don't forget to subscribe, and have a great rest of your day today. Bye!